Check, 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 check.
Perfection. Okay, Scott, let's tell everybody about surfnvs.com because not only is this the fastest and the least expensive way to expand your quiver, they're guaranteed for life and they have free domestic shipping.
What's not to like? Expand your quiver, guaranteed for life, free domestic shipping. I'll have 100 of those, please. Thank you.
100 times about $100 per set. So yeah, for $100 for a set of fins, you expand your quiver. I don't know
Yes.
what else to tell you. If you
Not
have
much.
five boards and then you get five sets of fins, it's like having 25 boards.
I was talking to somebody recently. I think it was Todd Glaser or somebody. Yeah. And they were saying Kelly Slater travels with a huge box of fins and is constantly changing out his fins and all types of, he'll even come in, you know, when it goes from glassy to chattery onshore and change the fins based on the chatter on the wave face.
Good enough for Kelly, good enough for us.
Exactly.
Surf NVS is where you go. It's Naked Viking Surf. They've got new sets from Taylor Knox. We've always Taylor's had an ARC series with them that Scott and I have used for years, but they have a couple of new lines from Taylor as well. I think it's the Wolverine twins and a new thruster set. So go check all of that out at Surf NVS. And then also a friendly reminder about the agave surfboards that they've got at Real Water Sports. I haven't checked the inventory on that since last week, but those are a hot commodity. Really, really cool stuff.
Well, look, the wonderful thing about the agave is that it provides tons of um, forward momentum, like built-in forward momentum, and they're absolutely gorgeous. If you're somebody like me, if you're like a middle-aged, elderly surfer, I don't have the energy to get on a board that weighs 5 pounds and try to get it up to speed,
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of I own an agave twinser and it's incredible. I love it. And so yeah, check them out. Go on Real Water Sports. Go on their YouTube channel. They've got a really great review by Trip about with featuring the agave twinser from Linden.
Gary's such a um, great communicator, eloquent speaker, knowledgeable, all that sort of stuff. So anytime that he's lending insights, I'm always keen to listen. And they do a great video that wasn't even intended to be a surfboard review video. It was just Gary was talking and Tripp's like, hey, hold on. Let's just record this and get it done. Because he can do it all in one take. So go check that out. Realwatersports.com for those boards, for anything that you need for the surf world, and then their YouTube channel you should just always subscribe to. They're dropping new stuff weekly. So realwatersports.com.
Heck yeah.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass with you. Spit. It's the Spit Podcast. It's Wednesday, January 25th, 2025. And David, yeah, we've got a show where we talk surf, and we're going to do that right now. Good morning, David Scales.
Good morning to you, Scott. We're 12 years into this show where we talk surfing.
Holy mackerel.
Did you
That's
ever
great.
envision?
Well, this is 20 years for me. I started in
Unbelievable.
'05. It's 2025, 20 years of talking podcast surfing.
So 20 years ago, did you ever envision that we would be sitting in entirely different areas, beaming our sight and sound up to the satellite and back down to one another and doing it all remotely?
Well, certainly not, in this sort of framework in this format, but I knew early on, and which is why I started the internet talk radio at Surfer Magazine because I was a sports radio fan. I knew that people wanted to talk about what they're enthusiastic about and they want to listen to what they're enthusiastic about. And I was like, why isn't there a sports talk radio show that's specific to surfing? And I said, you know what? There's gonna be. We're gonna start one because back then it was just magazines where we were getting our content. I knew that people were frothing. I could tell because what was really successful were the forums. People were online on forums typing away. People were just 24/7 on that forum. And it was obvious that there was a need for people to engage and take in more than just what the magazine was offering.
The it's the town center. is really what it is. It's always existed, like people want to just go get around, meet up at the town center and gossip, or the water cooler talk if you're in an office environment. The forums became that, Facebook became that, Instagram is now that. So I think the podcast is a version of that. Certainly, if you can give people a place to give comments and feedback on too.
Absolutely. The community that this podcast creates and all of your podcast creates is incredible. And a great example of that is a couple of weeks ago on this show, I was like, God, I got some back pain. I got some back pain.
Right.
We immediately got really great insights from people about one, the foundation training from Dr. Eric Goodman, which I've been doing, which has just really been wonderful for my back pain.
Good.
Now I may have overdone it, and I think I've actually am soaking my foot right now in some Epsom salt, and I had to cancel some stuff. I'm kind of limping around. I kind of hurt my foot. But point is that I think I've torn a tendon. But so I'm in a boot.
by overdoing it, you didn't hurt the back further. You just hurt your foot.
Yeah, I hurt my foot because I was doing it early in the morning when I woke up, and I didn't stretch out my legs. I should have stretched. I do this all the time. Like I jump in without stretching, and it was a huge mistake. And now I'm gimping around I've got like I said, I'm wearing a boot.
Brutal, dude. Well, good. I'm glad that your back is feeling better, if not your foot, but good luck with that.
Sorry, I had to let my dog out the door.
That's okay.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, no, feedback from listeners. I mean, I'm telling you, over the decade plus, we talk about something legal, a lawyer chimes in. We talk about, something medical, a doctor chimes in. Anything and everything, we seem to have listeners there. So shout out to the listener community. And by the way, I was just in Virginia Beach this past weekend and got to hang out with a bunch of listeners, and they comment. They're just like, they have lots of thoughts and, about you and us and things that we've talked about in the past. And the whole weekend, it's just revisiting show topics, basically hearing their sides of it. So it's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, for listeners, peroneal tendon tear, Peronel, peroneal tendon tear. I self-diagnosed this morning, and I'm sure there's some orthopedic doctors out there that can provide me with some insights. It's something that's been building up. Like when it first happened, I woke up one morning, I'm like, I'm a little bit sore. That's kind of weird, And then it kind of went away as the day went on. But I noticed instability in my ankle, and it got worse. And I'm like, honey, I think something's wrong. And I've been soaking it in Epsom salt. And then it kind of got better. And yesterday I was like, I think it's better. And so I went swimming yesterday, and then I did some work. I did some heavy lifting while I was working. And man, this morning I woke up like, oh my God, did I break a bone? What's going on here? Like it was just like, and so now I'm in full 100%. Let's get this thing fixed mode instead of trying to ignore it.
Good. All right.
Sorry to bore you. Sorry to bore you with that.
No.
Hey, who said that? I've got a who said that. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. I should have the music keyed up.
Oh, where's our, you know what? Let me tell you that this is the section of the show where I try to stump David with a quote from a famous surfer. You ready?
I am ready for it. I'll put the music in post. Well, I'm on a different computer and all the audio drops are on the other one.
Okay. Who said that, David? Here we go. And I quote, "You get it the way I shape it, or it's no dice. You don't tell the shaper how to shape the board. You tell the shaper how you want to surf, then bail and let him do it." Who said that, David? Was it 1, Richie Collins, 2, Bill Hamilton, 3, Rich Pavel, or 4, Rennie Yater?
Not Yater. I don't think it'd be Rich Pavel. It was Richie Collins and Bill. I'm going to go Bill Hamilton on this one.
Well, you were close. It's Richie Collins. Yes, Richie Collins. And I bring that quote up, which is a great quote. I thought you might get it because of the, how Richie is really blunt.
Yeah.
It was sort of a blunt quote,
It sounded like Richie. I just for some reason didn't go there.
So, of course, as we honor Eric Arakawa this year in the Icons of Foam tribute to the Master Shape Off at the Boardroom Show in October, Eric, the honoree each year selects the shapers that are going to attempt to replicate his classic designs. And so far, we've got three shapers, or three or four, I think four, but that have agreed to shape in the Shape Off. And one of them is Richie Collins. So Richie Collins is going to be a shaper this year at the Boardroom Show. And I'm super excited about that because Richie brings some energy. You know what I mean? I've competed against Richie in the longboard contest, 20 years ago or whatever. And the guy's competitive. Like he just shows up to win, and he's kind of like jobs on. Like there's no bro downs going down. It's just focus.
Have you ever golfed against him?
No.
He's a mad golfer, right?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. When I recorded that podcast with him, he had just gotten a hole-in-one like the week prior.
Wow.
Somewhere out in Palm Springs with like witnesses there and everything. And it was a big deal.
Wow. That is a big deal. Hole-in-one's a big deal. Good for him.
So why did Eric give you an explanation for why Richie?
He's friends with Richie. I think, does Richie live in Hawaii now?
He does, and he shapes there too. Yeah.
I think Richie lives in Hawaii, and I'm sure he probably does. He shape out of Wahiwa there at the sugar mill?
I don't know where he shapes.
Anyway, Richie and Eric go way back, so that's why. And then the other shapers that he's confirmed: Todd Proctor from Santa Barbara, Ventura area, and of course Alan White, who is the East Coast Surf Expo, the East Coast Shape Off winner, the one that Ricky Carroll puts on. So we've got those three now: Todd Proctor, Richie Collins, Alan White, and a couple of others that are probably a yes, but I'm not going to say them right now until we get a complete confirmation.
So, strong personalities between Proctor and Richie, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I was just saying I was in Virginia Beach. One of the guys I was hanging out with there, his name's Carter. And we met him at Real Water Sports when we went out there to North Carolina. He has a place right across the street from Real Water Sports. And I saw him in Virginia Beach, and he was telling me that I think it was his first board that he ever bought was an Alan White mid-length. I'm like, they weren't calling them mid-lengths back then, right? He goes, no. He goes, I didn't.
Short boards.
Yeah. And he goes, no, but Alan, he goes, I think was, for whatever reason, he's like, I'm pretty sure Alan was actually referring to it as mid-length. Anyways, it was like one of his first boards. It went away for a period of time, and then he was able to find it again later in life. More recently, it resurfaced, and he was able to buy it back. And so kind of, rarely happens, but you always have to sell the boards from your youth to buy a new board, basically, just to fund it economically. But this one was able to find his way back to him. So I thought that was a really cool story. And Alan White's a name you don't hear very often.
Yeah, that is a good story. And I have another one similar to that. As you know, I produced the California Gold Vintage Surf Auction, and I bought a bunch of boards from a guy in Los Angeles, and I was cleaning them up, and one of them caught my eye, and it was a beautiful Xanadu. It was like, it's probably like 10 feet long or 10.6 or something. It's a big gun from like the early 90s, and it had this gorgeous color. Like it has beautiful color, hand painted art on both sides. And I'm like, wow, this board's going to really do well at auction. It's just really pretty. It's eye catching, and it's in good shape. And I cleaned it up, and I was shooting photos of it for the catalog for the auction. And I noticed underneath the color, it said for Brad Gerlach. And I'm like, oh, this is one of Brad's old boards, So I took a picture of it and I sent it to Brad. I'm like, hey, Brad, tell me a little bit about this board, if I can get some backstory for the catalog and learn about the board and maybe a story or two from Brad, that'll be helpful to sell the board. And Brad's like, hey, where'd you get that? That's my board. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm sending you a picture. Like, I'd like you to give me some insight about it. And he's like, I think that board was stolen. Can I have it back? And I'm like, wait, hold on here. I've got money invested in this board. And anyway, we went back and forth, and sure enough, Brad sends me photos of him riding the board. It's one of Brad's boards from a quiver of Xanadu's that Xanadu made him for like whatever the 92 or 93 winter season on Oahu. And
Wow.
so, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this Brad really wants the board back. He's trying to collect that specific quiver because they're all hand painted. They're really pretty, and they're gorgeous. And so I'm like, all right, just give me what I have invested in it and I'll give
Yeah.
you the board. So that's a
Unbelievable.
classic example of a board finding its way back to its original owner.
Well, the same thing with Carter was his name had been written on the foam next to the stringers. So that is a surefire way to, help connect the dots anyways. But the surf world is pretty small as well. And so
Yeah.
with social media now being able to connect everything, that's how this is happening. But I have one story related to what we're talking about that I will tell you in the bonus show today. If you listeners want to go join us on Patreon, I have a remarkable story of
I
a
think
board
I
finding
have
its
that
way.
same story
Oh,
in
okay.
my notes, so I'll just bite my tongue here and say, okay, good.
You can if you want, or we can share it here. I don't mind. But yeah, it's great when that does happen because I have boards from my youth too that, they're seared into my memory, but the boards are long gone. So
Did you know, David? We had quite an extravaganza this weekend here in San Diego. San Diego legend Joe Roper celebrated 50 years of being in business. The Joe Roper Surfboard Repairs, 50 years, and it was they had a huge party at Roper's place. There was, of course, food. There's always a big, fish and chicken cookout on the grill, and bands, live music, and basically a who's who of San Diego and California surfing showed up to celebrate Joe and JoJo, who both work and run the factory there down in San Diego. And so good times. Ran into a bunch of ran into Wade Largent. Wade says hello.
what's
And
up,
Wade
Wade?
knows about Chicama.
Oh yeah.
Wade told me so much. I got so much good information about our trip to Chicama, which is coming up at the end of August. And really enjoyed chatting with Wade about which boards, what he thinks, what the water temperature's like, what the waves are like. He was just a plethora of insight. And so, yeah, ran into a bunch of fun people down there at Joe Roper's. Congratulations to Joe.
I mean, Duke of the Week. Come on, Joe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 50 years. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, Wade will also tell you about other spots that we could be surfing near Chicama.
Yeah, he did.
Just tell the group, we'll see you out in the lineup at Chicama, and then we'll go bail down the street.
Yeah, it was good. I always right now I'm kind of in Peru collecting information about Peru. My main concern is I don't like booties. I can't really wear
Yeah.
booties, and I'm like, wow. Everybody I talk to, I'm like, what's the water temperature like? And I've come to realize that everybody I've spoken with is like, dude, you don't need booties.
Yeah.
You don't need booties. You'll be fine without booties. It's
Okay.
not colder than here in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm going to bring booties just in case. But
Yeah. I'm not worried about the cold at all. The list, just FYI for listeners, this is a listener trip to Peru that we're doing in late August, early September, but it's sold out. So while we would love to accommodate more, the resort is maxed out. Basically, we took all the rooms. So next year, aim for 2026 if you want maybe to join us there, and we'll hopefully get you in on that.
have you hooked up your airfare for that? Your
No,
ticket?
not yet. I need to do that.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. Oh, okay. So what do you got for us?
So Rio started, and my Duke of the Week, in addition to Joe Roper, is Michael Ciamarella on Stab Magazine for writing this great contest recap of Rio so that I don't have to watch it. That is my Duke. And here's where we'll start off is with a listener comment that says, why are the WSL's elite CT surfers again at Rio surfing backwashy slop burgers that even make Grandview, Beacons, Tamarack, and other local spots here in California look like a far better option, while they are concurrently hosting a regional qualifying event annually in Indonesia in one of the world's most best-known right-hand slabs? I get that visibility in big markets are much needed, and they make money and turn the tour around into being profitable, but come on, it really seems ass backwards. Last year, Nias was all time, and our local girl Ella won it, which was awesome. But can you imagine Jordy, Katie, Molly, Ethan, Betty, Felipe, Gabriella, etc., all on that wave when it's 6 to 8 feet? Instead, we get to see Katie and company lose out in an elimination round in waves that are so crappy they're actually not worth watching, let alone fly around the world to compete on. Make it make sense. We understand that sentiment. We discuss it every year. Graham Stapleberg did say in his interview with Stab, if you want to have Fiji and J-Bay on tour, then you have to have Rio. My argument back to that is, aren't there better waves nearby or in Brazil? Like, does it have to be here at Rio? Can't we incorporate Brazil into the tour but still get better surf? That would be my question.
Yeah, and I don't know Brazil at all, so super ignorant. But that wave Fernando de that national park there. I don't know. I'm going to butcher how to pronounce it, but you know where I mean. Fernando de Noronha or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That wave seems like a legitimate good wave, but again, it could be just 6 in one, half a dozen in another. Like regardless, you're going to get kind of like B minus C levels quality surf. Even if they're swell, it's just going to be like your average spot around the world. Some people say, hey, that's kind of cool. Let's see the pros surf what we surf every day and see how they do. But at the end of the day, the waves are the stars. If the waves aren't pumping and killer, it just doesn't make for engaging content or competition, at least until the finals. Like I'm willing to like watch the final day no matter what, just to see the tactics and to see basically the 6 or 7 best surfers in the world on the final day boiled down into a heat. But yeah, for the most part, it's unfortunate, but he did nail it. It is for eyeballs and for for revenue.
I think it's actually, that's an old model. The eyeballs and revenue that he's talking about are the people on the beach, obviously. But unfortunately, we're all tuning it off. So you can only fit so many people on the beach. There's no limit to how many.
Well, the eyeballs, yeah, the revenues from the municipality or the government agency that's writing the check.
So my point is, can you keep Brazil and collect those revenues, but do it at a location that you're not going to lose all the eyeballs on the internet? The eyeballs on the internet are a far broader audience and more monetizable, by the way, than the ones on the beach. So I think there is a way to not just keep operating in the old mentality and to rethink it a little bit. And then in addition and aside from those things, is running it there is consequential to Caitlin Simmers, to Jordy Smith, when number 1, number 2 all get knocked out of the event right away because it's backwashy and nobody can get anything over a 13-point heat total. That's problematic and consequential to your world title run and to these heroes of the sport that you have been building up all season long. So I think it is shooting themselves in the foot a bit.
Yeah, there's no doubting that. What I would suggest to you is that if it's at that location or even the national park, Fernando de Noronha or whatever it's called, it's 6 in one, half dozen in another. In other words, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature. The national park could have a couple of days of insane beach break barrels that are spitting and insane, but it could also be flat, and it's just like.
That's true everywhere you go in the world.
I agree, but at least like if you go to Nias, it's going to be 6 foot and killer or flat and killer.
Exactly. I mean? That's my point. Where they're running the event now, even when it's killer, it's not as good as the other spots.
Yeah. But you were saying that maybe there's another location within Brazil that could be better than where they're. Yeah. And I'm kind of saying maybe, but it's just either way, you're kind of getting
the answer is
you're getting Tamarack.
I think, yeah, well, so you're saying there's no world-class waves in Brazil? Then I would argue don't run it there. Even if the municipality is going to pay you. Yeah. It's just, to me, it's undermining their entire efforts ultimately. So,
but we have seen, you and I have both agreed that I want to say the year Wade Carmichael won there, or Wade made the finals or something. That year was pretty good. There was like keggy beach break right-handers off of that little jetty thing.
Totally.
It was, I remember being stoked, kind of going, wow, Brazil performed for us. It was doable.
You're right. Every 10 years, there's 6 hours of competition that are good. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, right? That's bad.
Touché.
Those are bad statistics and odds to play.
Yeah.
And just to kind of illustrate what we're talking about for all of those who didn't watch the event, often you see waves like that and you're like, it looks junky, but then the world's best get out there and they put together incredible rides and you go, oh my gosh. There was a heat with Yago Dora, Griffin Colapinto, and Felipe Toledo. They couldn't put it together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you look at that and you're just like, what are we doing? You are flying these people around. Oh, you're not flying them. They're flying themselves around the world. And then again, there's world title consequences on the line. So I just think it's too big of a risk for the WSL to keep running it this way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to discuss for you and I in terms of the waves. Like there's no rides worth highlighting here on the show or reviewing on Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't. I watched one condensed heat replay and I was kind of like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Totally out. So I do have one thought though to discuss with you. And
Yeah.
Jordy Smith, who's not eliminated from the event, he lost his first round heat, but he goes into a elimination round. He's riding a Mayhem.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, stick with the game plan, bro. Like him and his dad doing the Smith Shapes thing. He's started to have success. It seems like a compatibility and an investment in one another. Jordy's always swapped out boards throughout his career, and he's also never quite lived up to his potential, his world title hopes and potential. And I think that there is a connection between those two things. And now he's on a straight path to a top 5 finish, and now he's swapping up boards mid-season. I'm questioning the decision.
Well, more will be revealed. We don't have the final results of that swap out. If in fact it was a swap out, are you sure that he wasn't running Mayhems at lowers?
I don't remember at lowers, but in El Salvador, he was riding both. He was riding his Smith Shapes and he was hyping the Smith Shapes and saying he's so glad to be back on them. And then the next heat, I saw him on a Mayhem. But he won, I think, on a Smith Shapes.
Well, that's good to know. I've owned a Smith Shapes. I loved it. It was really good. And I spoke with Graham's dad. Jordy's dad, Graham Smith. And it was killer. It was called the Monk or something like that. And it was like a wider 3-fin. And I rode it a couple of times. And I remember it was one of those boards where somebody goes, commented like, wow, that board really looks like it's driving really well. And it was in like, crappy summertime Seaside Reef. And, but it had a wider tail. And it's one of the many boards that I really loved, but somehow it's gone. It's not in my quiver anymore, but I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Meaning it still is under your ownership. You just have too many surfboards. You don't know where it's located.
No, what happens is sometimes I go through purges where like, see all those boards behind you, like I would just take all 7 of those boards and take them to the board source and sell them. And I just need to purge, and it's always sad. It's always like it pulls at my heartstrings because I'm like, I really kind of did like this board. Why am I? But kind of like out with the old, in with the new type of thing. Speaking of which,
I was going to say it's more in with the new for you than it is anything else. But
did you see what I just texted you?
I did. It's freakish. It's like an alien spaceship.
Yeah, that board's called the Crinkle from Greg Weber. And so I interviewed Greg, as you know, last week for the Boardroom podcast. And this board it's kind of hard. Can you show? Maybe I can show it, right?
I could probably do it. There's the Crinkle.
That's the Crinkle. So this board has channels on the deck that are perpendicular to the stringer, which runs north and south. The channels run east and west. And so in my discussion with Greg, I was like, so tell me about the Crinkle, and man, he's got some great insights about what it does and how it does what it does and what it's supposed to do. It's really a board that's supposed to flex, but be super strong. And I might be butchering that. And Greg might be rolling his eyes and going, Bash, you didn't quite get it. But the point is that I ordered a new board. In the process, I'm like, Greg, I'd love for you to make me a board. And I chose one of his board designs off of his website that I thought looked really good. And off of Adam Robinson does test riding for a bunch of different guys. And one of Greg Weber, Adam Robbo is riding some of Greg's boards. And there's a great YouTube channel video of Adam going through a bunch of Greg Weber's boards, starting from like 1985, one of his Insight boards, then going to the Shane Herring Banana, then going through some other boards in the lineup, in the Greg Weber lineup. And Robbo's going to be riding the Crinkle. This board, by the way, hasn't even been waxed yet. Like this, Robbo just picked the board up. Like he might be surfing it for the very first time today, for all we know. And they're going to film it and stuff. My point is that one of the boards in that video is a board called the Electra. And that's the board that I thought looked interesting to me. It kind of has like a wing that's higher up the tail, almost borderline being like an IPA Sting, you know, and kind of a wider nosed, you know, board that looked like I could get going. And in ordering it, Greg's like, well, why don't we make it a Crinkle? And I'm like, okay, are you sure? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So he's like, what we'll do is we'll put the channels just in the nose area. So apparently the board's going to have 3 or 4 of those corrugated roof. They kind of look like a tin roof, like an aluminum corrugated roof you'd see like in Hawaii or in Guam or something in the Pacific Islands. And that's going to just be in the nose area, those horizontal channels that should provide for some stability and some strength and some flex.
So you probably said it, but just for listeners who aren't viewing this, the crinkles corrugation are on the deck itself.
On the deck of the surfboard.
So
channels running perpendicular to the stringer.
In the photo that you sent, they're all the way from the top, from the nose to the tail, so they would be underfoot. When my concern would just be, how do you ever find stability with your feet if you're never fully planted? But obviously,
I mean, Greg would say you might not be able to. Like this is full R&D, like way out there on the far extremes of design concepts, and just to, I think Greg's feeling is it's almost better to go way out there, and then start to slowly kind of come back to center regarding R&D and design concepts, rather than inching forward. The theory is let's go way out and start there and move backwards.
I like it. And the one that's in the photo that you sent, that's the one that Adam Robertson's going to ride?
Yeah, that's the only one in existence. And it's carbon and Kevlar vacuum bagged.
Robbo rips.
He does.
He surfs so good.
I'm a big fan. And you should watch this video. I think you just YouTube Greg Weber, Adam Robertson. What's cool is that it's just Robbo, and he talks about each board. They show him surfing, and then it's kind of like a small version of Stab in the Dark, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, great test pilot for Weber.
Yeah.
You were asking me how to prep for that interview with Weber. How did it end up going in the end?
It was great. It was really fun talk, and you know, Greg's got tons of insight about surfboard design, really about anything. You know, like he's an outside the box thinker, and I thoroughly enjoyed it and was engrossed, and ordered a surfboard because of it. I was like, you know what, I want one of these.
Listeners love that detail. That's the one comment I get about you more than anything. Is just like, how many surfboards does that guy have? Every time you record, he's talking about 2 or 3 boards that he bought. So you can't even interview a shaper without ordering it on the spot.
It's kind of hard. It really is hard. You know better. You know as well as I do. It's hard, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I just economically am constrained. I cannot buy all the boards. I went a period of time where I was, and then I was just like, man, you got to reel this in.
Yeah. Look at all the boards behind you. Speaking of that, I have no boards behind me. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 surfboards behind you. I count.
Plus 1 hanging on the wall. But the difference is you have off-site storage, which is an indicator that your problem is way more significant than mine. These are the ones I don't even ride, by the way. These are just on like the back burner temporarily.
Well, you could see how, like, you know, your wife might go, hey, what are you doing? Like, you could see how there could be a purge that occurs, and it would be an unfortunate purge. It would be a purge of like, these are boards. Are you kidding me? I can't get rid of that board. I love that board. But you purge because guess what? You have ordered 2 other boards that are on their way.
Yep.
And one of them
Totally.
could be another CI. They could be guys, boards from the same guys. Could be a Simon Jones, a new Simon Jones, a new CI. Let's get rid of the old CI and let's
I know. Hey, I understand completely.
I know you do.
Um, are you paying attention to the Swatch Nines event that's taking place at Waco right now?
No, I watched some of it and it's so far away from my surfing experience that it just didn't interest me. To me, it was, and by the way, I'm not saying it's not interesting. I'm not saying it's not cutting edge. Just me personally, with all the content coming at me, that's one that I'm going to pass on. Guys doing lip slides off of some hanging feature that they've dropped from a crane. It's just like, it's, it's kind of like Waterworld, Mad Max stuff that I don't know. It seems a little bit too far gone, but maybe it's great. You tell me. What do you think?
Well, all of that is true, and it still yielded the single best air that people are saying has ever been done. And I'm sure
Wait
you've
a
seen
minute.
this clip in the last
Better than
24
Matt
hours.
Miola on Maui on an 8-foot bomb?
No, I would argue it's not as I don't know.
Is it
Uh,
two different things, David?
there
Are we
are
just apples and oranges here?
I'm telling you what the internet is saying.
Oh,
And did you see this backflip?
no.
It's Hughie Vaughan. I'm gonna have to send it to you right now.
Yeah, yeah, send it
I
to me.
can't
Hughie Vaughan does some incredible backflip. Is there some sort of hanging feature that he does it over, or is it just clean with nothing in the way?
clean with nothing in the way. Are you on Instagram right now?
I am. I'm
Okay, I'm
waiting
gonna
for
DM
your
it to you. So Hughie Vaughn, and by the way, Tony Hawk. This made the rounds for about 24 hours, and then Tony Hawk named it. He calls it the
that's cool.
stale fish flipper, and this is a legitimate backflip, but with a stale fish grab in it.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
It's insane. So I understand your criticism about it not being in the ocean. I had the same criticism myself. I've leveled that criticism here on the podcast endlessly, but this is undeniably nuts.
Well, you know what's occurred here is that one of the greatest and probably the very first sin of mankind, which is contempt prior to investigation. And after seeing this, I'm going to retract my earlier statements and say that this is next level. In this one moment, I don't know if it was worth watching the entire Swatch thing, but
No,
this one moment is certainly groundbreaking, earth-shattering stuff that is a, certainly a new bar on some level within high performance surfing.
entirely. And the world is kind of the surf world, I should say, is unanimous in that claim. New ground has been broken with that air. The first time I watched it, I thought he was strapped in. I wasn't looking at his feet, but just watching the rotation and the quickness and the how smooth he landed it. This is Rush Randall on Maui in 1996 with straps on, riding the Timponi, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how quick and controlled it was. And then looked at it and I go, oh my gosh, he's not wearing straps. Where did he even grab it? It's a single grab, not the double grab. Like unbelievable control over his surfboard. Hughie Vaughn also, um, he won an award. It might have even been the entire event at Stab High in Japan. I wanted to say he won the Monster Air, but I think he won the full event. So he's on a barn burner right now. But this is a stale fish backflip, to be clear, and landed as clean and as smoothly as you could possibly land a trick.
Yeah, it's incredible. I want to say that Huey won like the juniors division, but also won the best air at something like that. And our listeners or
We're
somebody at Stab can correct us, but
So Loki was the kid's name who won the Monster Air.
oh,
So not Huey,
okay.
but I think Huey did win
Yeah.
the event.
Well, Huey
But
looks like a kid. He looks
he
like,
is
what is he, like 17 or something?
probably. So the Stab Nines event, I agree with you. It feels very novelty, and they're, by the way, incorporating BMX and I don't even know if if that's what it's called, bicycles, freestyle bicycles on ramps. Is that still
BMX
called
sounds so
BMX?
much better than freestyle bicycle sounds like something your grandmother would tell you.
Is
Honey, I saw
BMX
the freestyle bicycles yesterday.
is BMX only off road or on dirt,
Dude,
or
who
can
know? Are
BMX?
you kidding me? I don't even know what's going on in the surf video. You're asking me about BMX.
Well, that's the distinction that I wasn't sure about, is if it's only on dirt or not. But anyways, they have ramps, so there's skaters, there's the BMX guys, and there's surfers all taking place at the pool. And the contraption that you're talking about hanging over the pool with a crane is a ramp and a loop, and guys are on the bikes doing that while the surfers are jumping up and grinding on the pole on the bottom of it. So it's all for photo ops, basically for Swatch to use in marketing campaigns in the future. And they
Yeah.
sell it as a party to come and do your best surfing on, which
Yeah.
surfers are glad to take them up on that offer. And
Yeah.
it's not a typical contest. There's no contest formats or anything like that, but they do give awards for the best air, the MVP, best trick, that sort of stuff. The Swatch crew booked 42 hours across 3 days at Waco Surf. So there's going to be 2,500 waves surfed. And again, not
It feels
necessarily
pretty dystopian, right?
totally. Yeah, Waterworld is
I
a
almost
great
sense that
analogy.
like there's like a some sort of bubble, and there's like a stripper in the bubble doing like a pole dance in the bubble, and there's it's,
All
it's
you need, all
it's
you
like some
need
like super wealthy tech bro got a bunch of cocaine and decided to create this insane situation.
It's not far off from that because it's run by marketing people at Swatch. And all you would need is for a sponsor to ask for that. If you had a sponsor that was
Like
Hooters or
a
some booze,
tequila company or
yes,
something.
a
Yeah.
tequila company or Monster Energy who always parades their women out in bustiers or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like they show up with the stripper pole and Swatch goes, "How much you paying?
And
Sweet."
you're hanging it from like this pole is being hung from a crane, and there's like a bubble, like you'd see in an Austin Powers movie. There's like, you know what I mean? A little bit of that vibe. Maybe turn the lights, do it at night so it's dark. Have spotlights on the stripper, spotlights on the surfer.
Why does it feel like you are the wealthy tech
I
billionaire
just,
with this
that's
is
what it
your
looks like when I
design?
watched it.
This
I'm just,
is from the
don't shoot the
mind,
messenger, bro. I'm just saying.
but the messenger also created the image in his brain. You just don't have the billions that the tech guy does.
I'm just repeating what I saw in an Austin Powers movie. Don't put this on me, bud.
This is straight out of your own imagination. Um, so they invited a who's who. Swatch gratefully invited a who's who of Mason Ho, Ballroom Stack, Noah Bash, and Matt Miola, Chippa Wilson, Dylan Graves, bunch of and then female surfers, Zoe McDougal, Sky Brown, you know, Victoria Vergara, longboarders, Rose Machado, Dimity Stoyle, Honolulu Bloomfeld. So a who's who of various different types of surfboards and styles to come out, party, and again, create marketing imagery for Swatch.
It
But
would be
like I
hard to
said,
longboard on that wave.
I mean, Victoria Vergara's clip was insane.
What was she
Uh,
doing? Just hanging five?
she was hanging 10 through a crazy section with a cowboy hat on. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you're saying that I had to use my imagination? Come on, they're doing it for me.
I witnessed it. I did not create that. But what I was going to say is, I don't feel a need to watch it. By the way, Couch Surfing is there filming it live for anybody who
Yes.
does want to watch it. So thanks for that. But ultimately, creating this, taking all of the parameters off of, let's say, a contest and
Mhm.
the pressure that comes with that, and just giving everybody free access to go do something, I think is what then yields what we saw Hughie Vaughan do. And Hughie Vaughan, having already surfed stab high in the pool and gotten probably used to it and a lot of practice runs under his belt, can go out and stomp something like that. So Cam Richards is there, and I watched Cam improve on what he had done at stab high, but it's nowhere near as gnarly as what Hughie did. And it dawned on me, well, now Cam is going to try to outdo Hughie. You know what I mean? Like Cam in his mind was trying to nail a trick and he did it, but that was his, I don't know, 5 minute mile or whatever it was for running. And somebody just busted through that. And he's like, oh, shoot, maybe I should try to go upside down instead of full road. And so I think that's where you start to see this leaps and bounds in progress being made.
Yeah, there's a freedom to it all, right? There's no constraints whatsoever. These aren't heats necessarily. This is
No,
full free surfs for the photographers, and so there certainly is like a liberation in your mindset. We know physically, well, we're learning that they can do crazy stuff, but a lot of times you get constrained by putting on a jersey or being under a timer, and this really opens that up. So there's no excuses now, like let's go, folks.
totally.
Although
Um,
it would be a little stressful to have a stripper above you while you're doing that. That would feel like,
Because you're trying to impress the stripper. You're
Well,
worried she's going
that's
to be
your
judging you.
imagination. Look at your imagination going crazy. Okay, buddy. Now we know who's the real guilty party here. Well done. What else is going on up there in that 5 inches between your ears?
Speaking of wave pools, I went and checked out the one in Virginia Beach this last
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
They just started running waves in it prior 2 days prior to me being there, and when I was there, they did not run any waves, but it's pretty impressive. Like it's the Wave Garden Cove technology that's
Yeah.
super rippable,
Hmm.
barrel sections.
Yeah.
It looks like a really, really killer wave. If you're going to surf a wave pool, that's the wave you would want to surf. Um, the other idea is like Virginia Beach is a surf town
With
that
no
doesn't have
waves.
waves. Exactly. So the only thing Virginia Beach, like it's got one of the best board builders in America, and great surf community. It generates professional surfers. Like it's an incredible surf community that doesn't have waves. And so this is now guaranteed waves in Virginia Beach. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how that, affects the culture and all
I
that
think
sort of
West
stuff.
Lane wasn't West Lane from Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Who else? Was
Jason Bort,
Bort? Wasn't no, Todd Holland was from Florida.
Todd Holland's Florida, Cocoa Beach. I want to say Michael Dunphy was originally Virginia Beach. He lives in
Well, good.
Florida now,
You
but
know, by the way, I think they're having that what's that thing they do, that Surf Park Summit thing? They're doing that this year out there in Virginia Beach.
makes sense.
And I saw somebody sent me, one of my friends, I'm on one of these text chains with my surf buddies, and they sent me a wave garden video of the one in Brazil, the wave pool in Brazil. And it
Hmm.
was 5 left-hand barrels in a row.
Hmm.
Like think of like a 8-second wind swell as far as the interval. Like every 8 seconds, another wave popped up and just went bloop, 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 like aqua blue,
Yep.
like blueberry Gatorade colored water, just insane. Looked so ridiculous. There was nobody in the water either. It was like they were turning it on for a test run. Did you see that on Instagram?
That's what they showed me. No, I didn't see it on Instagram, but that's what these guys showed me on their iPhone from the day
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sheet glass oil,
Mhm.
unbelievable. So my question that I had, and I didn't say this to the developers, but you know, maybe you see that image and you have reason to be on the East Coast and you fly to Virginia Beach to do that as a non-local you. But what happens if St. Augustine builds one? And what happens if Ocean City, Maryland builds one? Like for their economic model, if they're the only one on the East Coast, then that creates a lot of draw, obviously. But if there's two or three of them in different locations up and down the East Coast, does that really cut into the demand?
That's a great question. And my mind immediately went to, well, look how many golf courses there are, you know? Now, obviously, these are apples and oranges. Um,
No,
golf, you
that's a
can send
fair.
out 4 golfers every 15 minutes and they have a 4-hour session on the golf course. And so, yeah, it's funny, right? Even within a wave pool, there's sort of a limited resource. If you get jammed up with, we don't have any more times. I
I
sense that there's enough surfers, especially on the East Coast, that you could definitely have 3 or 4 wave pools spread out. And there's so much downtime on the East Coast too.
I mean,
So anyway,
I,
I
I
don't know.
I was thinking like with Palm Springs, for example, Palm Springs is so unique as a location itself that having the wave pool in addition to all of the other elements makes a lot of sense. You're going to go golf in the morning and then it gets too hot midday. Then you go wave pool and then there's phenomenal restaurants. There's a whole thing going on in Palm Springs that is unique to Palm Springs because of the architecture and the history and all that. But from my perspective, Virginia Beach isn't that much, or it's not any more unique than St. Augustine is not any more unique than Asbury Park is not any more unique than Ocean City, Maryland is. So I'm wondering the stop point or the barrier of entry is the expense, of course, of building the facility. So this was a $600 million commitment, and the city funded, I think, $80 million of it. So you're going to have cities and developers who want to kind of pay that price for the buy-in. But if you do, then I think it does start to jeopardize the uniqueness of Virginia Beach.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to look at, like, let's say, for instance, somewhere in Florida, in the central coast of Florida, let's just say Cocoa Beach decides they want to do one. Well, the investor is going to go, well, there's already a really successful one up there. Are are we going to be watering down the offering so much that we both fail? Like, like, so there's some smart people behind. These people don't invest in these things on a whim. So, yeah, there'll be thought put into it.
There's already been a lot of thought put into the ones that exist, and they're still not proven economically. You know what I mean? So I think we will that's the next level of consideration is where is that saturation point? Can you turn all of the country into surfers like golfing did? If you can, then fantastic. Keep building them, but we don't know yet.
You know what? I've got my foot soaking in this water and I have to piss like a racehorse right now. So
Just
why don't we go to the listener subscriber portion of the show after this break?
let's take a quick break, come back to do a must-see moment and then we'll end and go to a bonus show.
Okay. Prostate is calling.
Go for it.
Plus, I have to limp around. I don't have the speed and the agility that I once had.
Take your time.
Okay, I'm back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be back. So couple of thoughts. So must see moment, obviously Hughie Vaughan's Crazy Air. And then I also wanted to bring your attention to, bear with me, new Dave Rostovich clip. So yeah, so a couple of things to note here. A 7-minute edit of Dave Rostovich and Dan Ross. Yato Syed is the name of it. Good luck pronouncing that or figuring out how to spell it. I'll post it in today's show notes. But
where would you find it? YouTube?
No, that's what's interesting about it actually, is they posted to a new platform called P2P, which stands for
player to player, person to person.
Pay to play. P2P, pay to play. And this is a new platform where content creators put it up there and you just basically pay to watch. So it's $7 Australian, which is probably like $5, $4.50 US. And it's a 7-minute edit. And if you pay it, the money goes directly to the content creators, presumably the filmmakers and the surfers. So interesting. We all know that Dave Rostovich content is a hot commodity. So I think that, and also kind of in, limited supply. So I think this will be a great test subject to figure out if this platform has a.
It's an interesting idea. Like if it's successful, how does the back end support itself? In other words, you're going to need huge amounts of server space and electricity costs.
Yeah, don't know. But P2P, you can follow them on Instagram even. But I like the idea. For years, I've been asking filmmakers here on the podcast when I interview them is like, how do you make a living? You know what I mean? Nathan Oldfield recently, phenomenal filmmaker, beautiful films. How do you make a living? He works as a teacher, and then hopefully he gets like a little pay project from Patagonia or somebody along the way. But the films that we get to watch of his are largely just gifts to us. There's not really a return on that. I think he puts some of the longer form versions on Vimeo, and you could pay on Vimeo as well for that. But this is a new platform that basically is built specifically for that. So interesting to see how this works out for Rostovich and Dan Ross. I would like to see these guys get paid because I like investing in their work and I want them to have the freedom to make their own work.
Do you know the name of the website? Like if I was to search for this, because I tried P2P and it didn't come
up. To play p2p.com. Pay to play p2p.com.
Oh, pay to play P2P, both of those things.
Yes, pay to play p2p.com. And they're in South Australia, deep South Australia, surfing this crazy slab.
Yeah, to Syed, starring Dave Rostovich. It's $6 Aussie to watch it. You download it.
Well, you can download
downloads, huh?
Well, no, download the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You download the film. That's not a stream. That's interesting.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you get the film. So anyways, go check that out if you're interested. Shout out to those guys for
That seems
testing
weird,
out.
doesn't it, David?
What?
To download the film onto your hard drive. Now you can just upload it to YouTube. I mean, not that we would, but there's going to be somebody out there that does that.
It'll take about 62 minutes until somebody does that. But anyways, go check that out if you're interested. More Dave Rasta is always good. Oh, by the way, I should let people know that I've got this in my hand. The new issue of Surfing World. I think I might have told you once before, but I've got about 20 issues left. If anybody
Yeah.
in the US wants Surfing World issue number 425, they do a deep dive into Cyclone Alfred. Um, Lots of great stuff, as always. The Last Days of Davo, written by Derek Hind, is in this issue. So Sean Doherty sends me a couple of boxes of this over to the US, and then I ship it out from the US to locals here who want it in the US so that you don't have to pay exorbitant shipping fees from Australia. So go to surfsplendorpodcast.com and you can find the shop and just click to purchase there, and I will ship it out to you.
Cool. Right on.
And then lastly, Surfrider Foundation, of course, go become a member. The ocean needs more friends at surfrider.org to follow all their incredible work. They need you now more than ever. More threats against kind of the environment and offshore drilling, all that sort of stuff now. So go check that out. And yeah, that's it. Must see moment. And then we nailed the Duke of the week earlier, which is Joe Roper. Anything else from you, Scott?
No, that's going to be all. Let's stay tuned for the subscriber portion of the show just for you. Until next time, adios and aloha.
Waterwaystravel.com, Scott. Mexico. Get down to Hualtuco. How do you pronounce it?
Hualtuco.
Hualtuco.
See?
And Salina Cruz. They, like we were talking about, less crowded. Mexico has always been super crowded, and for whatever reason, in recent years, less crowded, less bookings than normal. So now's the time to get down there if you want warm water, cervezas, tacos, and I mean consistent surf as consistent as you could ever hope for.
Yeah, look, I love that region. Listeners know I go down there quite often, and it for me, what it does is it sort of scratches the itch when the waves are crappy here in Southern California, and I need to go get some warm water, right hand peelers. It's just a easy turnkey solution to scratch that itch. And Salina Cruz has so many great right handers. Highly recommend it. So much so that I have boards just waiting down there. I don't even bring boards. I just fly down and there's boards there for me.
Smart. Follow Scott Bass's advice. That would be Waterways advice too, by the way.
Waterways Travel. Go check them out. Go there right now and click on Salina Cruz, and there'll be tons of insight there about where to go, what to do, where the surf is, how to get it all done. They're a one-stop shop for surf travel, Waterways Travel.